there's a brother that I work with. He's not really an active Mason, but I work with him, and he was telling me earlier this week. So he's real big into aquarium stuff. So he has a. I've been to his house. He has like a saltwater aquarium with coral reef
Oh,
and everything.
nice.
It's a 75-gallon tank. So
Yep.
in my opinion, it's pretty big. I don't really have a lot of experience with that kind of stuff. Anyway, he was talking about it like really excited about getting a new tank, and he texted me like last night. He's like, "Hey, his brother was going to help him move his new tank, but he couldn't help, and so he's a brother, he's a friend. So I was like, sure, man, I'll help
You
out
know
with the
how
tank.
heavy that glass is?
I do now. So this was a 135-gallon tank.
Yes.
Like,
Was it a
That's
long
big.
tank or a tall
That's
tank,
big.
Justin? Like
uh,
if this makes sense, like some of them are they're
it
more
was
rectangles that are like long
it
rectangles
was it
versus a
was
tall rectangle.
it was longer than tall.
Okay, yeah.
And dude,
Either way,
like
they're awkward, but yeah,
it's bigger than a bathtub, man. So
yeah.
I got my workout in today, but like it was worth it because, like I said, he's a pretty good friend, and like I don't want to be sentimental, but like his face lit up when he saw it. So I know it was good to help him and everything. But man, those things are heavy. They're
Yeah.
heavy, and it's really not so much the weight though. It's just the fact that it's just so girthy that it makes it hard
You
to
can't
handle.
handle the girth, huh?
I
You
can't.
had to bring it into this conversation, and that was
Wow.
quite early in the conversation that you brought it into. I mean, that's a little telling. I mean, it's
But
who
yeah.
am I to say though? To each his own.
so,
His own girth.
so yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah. But that's how my what I did
different
today.
degrees of girthness.
Yeah. But anyway, what else is going on with everybody?
We had the Helmet Shrine Director Staff Band come out to the lodge yesterday with their big semi that they pull through the state fair, and they blocked the road off in front of the lodge, and we had a little street dance. And there's our junior deacon, his daughter's a rainbow girl,
Mm-hmm.
and they cook all our meals for us for
Raise
fundraising
money.
for her,
Nice.
and they cooked hot dogs. So we split some of the money with them. They got money for cooking hot dogs and stuff, and we're gonna put some money into our little scholarship fund, and probably give a couple $100 to the Hellas Shrine.
Nice.
We didn't raise a whole lot of money, but we had a good time.
That's
That's
cool
real
that
good.
they were able to come out and do that. I mean, it's good that you have those resources. We don't have those kind of resources in my neck of the woods. That would be cool to have. I mean, I was just talking to a brother yesterday about my shrine, and I frankly I really am not sure why it's still around because there's just not enough members. There's not enough members in Corpus, much less to support a big shrine.
Mm-hmm.
And all the different groups are suffering, and it's just not. They were calling on regular members to ask to drive the little cars for the parade, for the biggest parade of the year, for the shrine. They were calling regular members to see if they could drive carts because there weren't enough people in the cart
When you
brigade.
when you say regular members, you mean like people that are
Regular
at the
shrine
shrine?
members.
Got you.
Regular shrine members. Yeah, because you're usually in a club you're in that club to do the little carts, or you're in a
Yeah.
club to do the shooting, or you're in a club to do the clowns, you're in a club to do, so you know there's so few members that there's just the clubs just aren't there. The only one that's really supported is the shooting club. That's it. The
I,
rest of them are kind of suffering.
I think sometimes that we have too many. I don't want to say appendant bodies, but we have too many Masonic esque organizations that are pulling us too thin. As the membership gets back to what it needs to get to, which is smaller than what it has been. Like all these things that are pulling, it's just going to pull people thinner and thinner because there's less people to go around.
Right. Well, and you know, you stop and think with all the money that's going towards the big building and stuff like that, if we aren't getting the rental income from the building and that we need to support the building itself,
Mhm.
then the people are, you know, the members are paying for the building, right?
Mhm.
Well, the shrine is one of the biggest purposes of the shrine is to support the Shriners Hospital and everything that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So if we didn't have to pay for the building, we could probably put more money towards the Shriners Hospital. If you know that's, and I hate to talk that way. And I, if there are any brothers out there in Corpus that hear me talking about this, I'm not saying I want it to go away, but I just wonder where the viability is in the next 5 years, 10 years. Are we in a sinking ship, or are we,
Well, it's quite the pickle.
I don't know.
It's quite the pickle because when you have hospitals and stuff tied to your appendant body, you're too big to fail at that point. You have people
Yes.
that are legitimately depending on you for their survival, but
Right.
but it's a handful of people doing. Really, we need to get back to the idea. I say back to. I don't think we ever really had the idea of like Masonic centers. Like if you want to keep your appendant bodies, that's fine, but let's consolidate into like
Put it all in one
building.
place.
Yeah,
Right.
because the shrine's not meeting all the time, the lodges aren't meeting all the time. There's no appendant body like that always has stuff going on every day of the week. Consolidate locally into one building. You have a really nice building, and it's active, and people show up to visit. Like you invite people to come. There's stuff going on all the time. People drive by.
Yeah.
There's always stuff going on. You can have a really vibrant center, Masonic center in your community. That there's always things going on. People are driving by seeing this stuff going on. It's nice inside because you have so many resources pooled into one place. There's value being provided instead of everything just being spread so thin.
Right. I tend to agree. It's but what's a shame is, you've got these cities, and I'm talking Corpus isn't a small city. I mean, it's a pretty big city.
Mhm.
It's
What's the population of
several
Corpus?
100,000 people, and here we are not able to support the shrine. The only other thing that's going on in Corpus really is York Rite, and that's not super huge considering. I mean, that's little bitty compared to, let's say like Fort Worth or even McKinney up at St. John's, or it's not St. John's. It's oh my goodness. Well, it's McKinney Commandery. It's so I don't know. I don't know, man. It's not a small town. There's not many members there. I'm wondering why. What's the fix?
Yeah, I just think
it's my question for the night for you guys.
You pull up a map and pick a mileage, 20 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles, whatever, depending on where you're at. If you're like in West Texas or something, it might have to be larger. Draw a circle around like the biggest, nicest building, and everything that's Masonic in that circle, consider consolidating that into one spot. And just pick the nicest building. Swallow your pride, swallow your ego. Like most, like where I'm living, kind of my area, I think like 20 miles, 30 miles maybe. I mean, I'm driving 20, 30 miles to go to lodge anyway. Most cases.
Right.
And so, like, you can go to lodge within 20, 30 minutes, and everyone within that radius, that's where all the lodges meet. That's where your pendant bodies meet, and just go from there.
Right.
What's up, Caesar?
I just think that we ought to maybe and we should stop focusing on the buildings and all that kind of stuff so much, the solutions of the buildings and the bodies and all that.
Mhm.
Start focusing on why we don't have the members. So I would like to consider the fact that maybe we're just not open to doing what gets people excited. And I'm just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Had a brother today talking about, and I was talking about this before the show. Had a brother talking to me about their lodges bringing in they're doing a degree a month. They've got 7 instructors right now instructing people on the work. And he said, well, the thing that he decided to do this year, he was going to bring in this big laundry list of speakers and all that kind of stuff. But he decided, you know what? I'm just going to have a fun event every month, a cool event that everybody wants to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, they show up to the stated meeting and they show up to the fun event. And he's got 30 plus people showing up at each one of these events, and everybody's excited and happy and having fun, and they're getting more members because people are excited. He wasn't so interested in the education after that. And I said, well, we've got to keep the education in there, because we've got to be focused on the internal. And I don't know, I may be part of the problem, because I think that, even though their lodge is doing real well, I'm trying to define Freemasonry. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to define their Masonry. And is that really fair of me to do that?
I think if you, I don't see an issue with fun stuff, but I think if that's all you're trying to do, one, it's going to wear you out as a worship master, because coming up with fun things and implementing them is a lot, right? Granted,
well, he's almost done with his year, and he's happy to help the next guy too.
Yeah, but like you say, I don't know, man. Like if I'm curious what kind of who's showing up at these things, because me personally, if I want to have like fun, I got things I can do that are fun, right? I don't have to leave the house for fun. Me personally, and I think that's a lot of people. Like if all you can offer is fun, like what do Masons do? Well, we have fun. Well, now you sound like the Shrine or something, right? Is that the Shrine that does that, or Grotto?
Yeah.
Or something like, oh, we have fun.
Both.
That's not really. So I don't think there's a problem with events that are fun sporadically. Like I don't think there's a problem with events where you're just getting with your brothers and having a meal. But if that's all you're doing, if that's the primary focus, you're not really making people better. Having fun doesn't make you a better person. So you definitely need to have education. You need to have some kind of programs. And like I overheard you saying, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to talk about Kabbalah or something, right? Like every time. But it could just be someone from the community coming in, like a community leader, talking about, this is
what's happening in the community.
This is what's happening in the community. This is direction the city council is taking things. Something just to inform people, right?
Right. And that's kind of what I threw in there, but I started feeling like a grumpy old past master, doing that, because what they're doing is working. They're making their lodge is thriving, and they're doing well, and that's and other lodges they're coming to visit and do enjoy their time with them because their lodge isn't as fun.
Yeah.
But I do agree. And now one thing I did challenge him on that. I did challenge him on that education portion. And he said, well, I decided not to do the education that I had planned, but we do have brothers that are interested in that stuff, and I know where to send them. We talk about this stuff, on the sidelines, doing other things. We talk about different topics, and if it's a little bit deeper than me, then I know where to send them to. I know who knows this stuff. But otherwise we do talk about it. They just don't have the formal education in the lodge.
Yeah. Cesar Rubio is over in chat. He's saying he's rereading. Did you ever read this? It's Dwight L. Smith's "Whither Are We Traveling"? Have you ever read that before?
I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? It's
Whither are we traveling?
yeah, it's online like as a PDF. It's interesting because it was written like early 1900s, and uh, I mean he says it's prophetic, and it's definitely prophetic because the way it's written, it's like it could have been written today, like talking about all the problems and stuff. So he saw it forthcoming, well before it happened, and we are living in the times that he was talking about, where we just don't have we have way less members than we did at the time, and we have all these different organizations and things, and we weren't practicing Freemasonry, and that was what he was talking about. Like, where's the value? We're not actually doing what we talk about. So, it's pretty relevant to what we're talking about here. 1962, he said. Oh, I thought it was older than that, but
But it's the age old story though, and it. The thing is that any businessman knows that all business is cyclical,
Mhm.
right? You're going to have cycles. You're going to have your ups and you're going to have your downs. And the the wise businessman knows it's coming, and they can see when the trend is starting to go down, and then they can start preparing so that it'll lessen that curve, that lower curve, and hopefully increase the upward curve. Well, anyone could have seen what was going to happen with the influx of membership in 1962. I
Mhm.
mean, you had what, quarter of a million members at that point, and they came in like a wrecking ball. I mean, there was a lot, and it came in fast.
Mhm.
So it was pretty obvious that we were going to hit some kind of a bubble somewhere at some point. So I don't know. It seems to me like
There's a difference between us and like
we could
actual
have done a little
businesses,
bit
though.
more to curve the blow
Well,
to
if
make
a
it less.
if a business is experiencing a trend, you have your president, your vice president, your board of directors, most of whom have been in that position for quite a while, and are in that position for a long time to affect the change that needs to happen to prepare for that. Does that make sense?
Right.
But the issue we have in North America, and I think this is interesting because some of the issues we have in North America, they're not having in like Europe and other countries where you have longer terms for your leadership, because
Right.
they're actually able in that position. They're in the position. They see the trend. They have their board of directors or whatever you want to call the equivalent, and they make the decisions and see them through to fruition. And so I'm sure that, like, I'm sure Mexico, for example, I'm sure they're experiencing, differences in membership too. But from what I have seen and heard and read, a lot of European countries and like South American countries, it, it's it it's much more tempered than what we experienced here.
Right. I think that a lot of that. Oh, go ahead. You're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you. I can't
Can't
hear
hear
you.
you. Just
Right
there.
now?
There you go.
There you
There you
go.
go.
Okay. Hey, how you doing, brothers?
Good to have you,
Good.
bro.
Thank
Well,
you.
I would like to say this. I think this is the perfect scenario about the glass, looking the glass halfway and or empty or halfway full. I think masonry is in a great point to have a turning point, we're getting in a point that it's gonna get better. And I recently write about this in an article talking about AI, because with all this AI technology coming out, people are now, I hear I see a lot of posts in Facebook, like people, I feel more confident talking with ChatGPT, with talking with the person, because I can go in a deep conversation, so and so. And that's recently. In 5 and 10 years, people gonna start missing talking with people, getting close to people. And that's what makes it need to focus, because we can offer that.
Mm.
Yes, you can talk with the AI, you can came up with good ideas and whatever the case it is, but you will never get from the AI a human experience, a brotherhood. That person that have your back, that can give you a hand when you need to have somebody to help you. And that's when we need to focus more, like giving that experience to our brother, because at one point they're gonna start missing that,
Mhm.
and guess where they're gonna start coming to fill that empty. So I think we are in a great point to to see the opportunity that we have looking forward to the future.
It's
Well, I
a
like the way you're thinking. I
yeah.
think that, it wasn't too long ago that I was saying the same thing. And I guess I just like everything else, I go into my peaks and valleys. And here I am. I needed to hear it from you. I think you're right. We we already are having that. I believe that that's what is filling our pews per se, for lack of a better terms. That's what's filling the pews right now is young men that are coming in, that are educated online, that have all these friends on whatever video game they're playing, but they don't have that interpersonal relationship.
Mhm.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's what people are missing, and that's probably why that other brother is having such success with his lodge, because they're getting that interpersonal relationship. It has nothing to do with if they're learning anything or not. They're getting that relationship that they're looking for. And so that's probably why he's being successful, and he probably could throw some education in there and still be successful,
Mhm.
and then make sure and touch on all the bases so that everybody gets a little bit.
Well, I think it goes back to something that you and I have talked about before, and it's like we kind of get in our own way sometimes, right? Like you and I have preconceived notions of what we think a successful lodge looks like, and it was creeping in tonight, right? And
Yes.
but just because we think, well, I mean, we were saying like, oh, you can put some education in there. I mean, come on.
Right,
If
right.
if that's what they're getting at that lodge, if that's where their success lies in right now, if that's the Freemasonry they're looking for at that point, I mean, who are we to say otherwise, really, right? I mean, if they ask for advice, we give advice, but for us to say no, you're doing it wrong, that's wrong of us, isn't it?
Well, that's what the fraternity was built on in the 1800s. I mean, it was that interpersonal relationship. People were depending on each other to build these cities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were flat out depending on each other for their lives to live and to build these cities. And so it was a very strong connection that, and there was all this technology and stuff coming out with the newspapers and the phonograph, or the what is it, dang it,
The
the
oh, the
Telegraph.
telegraph.
telegraph. There we go. All this new technology coming out, and yet the most powerful thing that they had at their disposal was each other,
Mm-hmm.
that interpersonal relationship. So I think you're right, and thank you for bringing that back into the conversation, because I needed to be reminded
Yeah,
of
so
of
wise,
something
so
I've
wise,
believed
Gene.
in a while. He is, man.
He is very wise.
He makes our show better. I don't know why you're not here more often.
Yeah.
All these other guys, they hardly offer any. No, just
Oh
kidding.
wow!
Right, huh?
Yikes! Yikes!
I mean, Daniel. I just got to my little phrase last week, and he shut off. He just left.
Yeah,
He
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 said it
left
was
the
so
show
bad.
right before I got to my
My
dad
It was
joke.
such a bad dad joke. He can't even. If he can't stomach it,
Oh,
you know it's bad.
I
my
know.
headset died. It hung up the whole conversation. By the time I finally got back on, it was over. So,
I had finally come around to doing one of the jokes with the tents, and I used something as intently, and they were just scratching their head, going no, and you hung up, and it's like, oh my gosh, I just completely crapped on that one. So
I want to revisit.
my headset died, and the whole call dropped at that point. So,
that's funny.
Yeah, we wrapped up after that. We're like, well, Daniel's gone. Might as well just finish.
Mm-hmm.
To Gene's point, though, like AI is very advanced, and it's advancing really quickly. It just passed the Turing test pretty recently, which is basically could it pass for like a human almost. But you can have some pretty good conversations with AI, and superficially, I'm gonna contradict myself. Superficially, it may seem pretty deep, but it's not a person. And
That's an oxymoron.
I know, right?
It's not a contradiction. That's an oxymoron.
What'd you call
Superficially,
me?
it seems pretty deep.
It's deeply superficial. There you go. How about that?
You're a moron
Deep.
you're a moron on oxy. That's what it sounds like.
But it can never. It can pull information off the internet, right off the database, and it can interpret it to an extent. But it there's no emotion. There's no real experience. And it'll never be human. And to Gene's point, like I think he's right. More and more people are going to rely more on AI. Is like almost like a personal assistant for everything. Just they'll talk to it and they'll ask advice and stuff. But the thing about AI is it's very positive. It's always positive, and it's helpful. But the responses are also canned, and that may change over time. It may seem almost like talking to a real human at one point, but it's not.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You can talk it up all you want to, but I think it's a bunch of crap.
I don't think I talked it up at all. What are you talking about?
I think that you got teachers using it, students using it. You've got everybody using AI and becoming more ignorant because they don't know how to research things themselves.
Except grumpy old Gen Xers.
We're losing the Pete Normans of the world, and we're gaining
the Norm Petersons.
For lack of better, we're gaining the Justin Joneses of the world that want to use AI and everything. And I'm just not down with that. I think it's okay to look up something, and of course it's when you do any search, it's always been AI that did the search when you did any search. So, thank you, Cody. I agree completely.
See, grumpy old Gen Xers.
I support that message. But, it's always been AI when you did a search, right? So now it's just more in-depth interpretation of that search. But the thing is, you really, if you don't double check everything that's being said.
You're right.
You guys, I say you guys, we all, talk about how, there's so much disinformation out there about Freemasonry, and that nobody knows the truth about Masonry except for Masons. Well, that's true about anything you look up on the internet. Mm-hmm. If you don't put in the work and look for yourself, and you just rely on AI, then you're doing a disservice to you and anybody that you use that information with.
You're absolutely right.
And that's exactly what my point is that I think that's going to give you some type of advance compared with people, because at one point, Masonry is something that is built in memorization work. So it keeps us all the time thinking outside of the box. So at one point, if every people start relying on these AI tools and everything, everybody gonna start shaping the same way. But who's gonna be different? Masons. Mm-hmm. So at one point, everybody's gonna start looking at, wait, what's happening with these guys? Like they are always having a great time together. They are knowledgeable people. They know how to do business. They know how to do whatever it is the case. They can talk deeply about Masonry. They can talk deeply about any topic. So at one point, I think that's when we're gonna be on the map. Maybe not now, but maybe in the future, 10, 15 years from now.
I think as long as we're providing value now.
I think
on the map. I think you're seeing it now already, right? You're already seeing it with like the youngest people who are coming into Masonry. They are looking for something deeper and more meaningful, and they're looking for something more real than what they've had, right? And we already talked about it, right? We already talked about it. It's not the online relationship. It's not the video game relationship. I can do that all day. Mm-hmm. I can go to a chat room and do that all day. But I want to go get that real knowledge. And then I know we had a young man come to our lodge, 18 years old. Like, man, I want something more. I want something more. I want something deep. I want something educational. I want the spiritual side of masonry, like, kind of the esoteric spirituality is what I'll say, right? But he's looking for something more. He's looking for something deeper. He's looking for purpose and wanting to go into that side of it, right? And it's exactly that, right? We're going to see this schism with AI. We're going to see the people who only treat it superficially, and then we're going to see those Pete Normans. We're going to see those deep thinkers that come out of it because maybe they started with AI and they realized this is superficial and I need to go deeper.
Yeah.
I need to go do the research. I need to find the truth. I need to find those things. And, I think it's really interesting that I personally think you're going to see too, it's like with social media. You see people who are on it all the time. You see people who aren't on it at all, right? We're going to see that same thing with AI, in my opinion.
I think it's just like any tool. I think you can use it to start your journey, right? And it may open, and it's done this for me. It may open thoughts or ideas that I haven't personally just come across just on my own. So it may open up possibilities, but you can't rely on it. You can't. Don't use it to write your paper, right? Don't use it to
write your lesson plans.
Don't use it to write. Yeah. Don't. It's not Google, and it's not a citable source. So you can use it to bounce ideas, right? You can even, like, what I've done before is I'll write a paper and then I'll submit it, and it's like, tell me what you think based off, like, it can analyze your paper, like, what's the tone. There was a letter sent out a year or two ago from one of the Grand Masters, and it got analyzed. You could use it for stuff like that. Say, hey, I want to be sure that I have the right tone. Analyze it and tell me what you think. You can get feedback, and you can use it to, like, start your journey, but don't use it. It's not. You can't build a whole house just with a hammer, right? I mean, you can. It's not gonna be worth living in or anything like that. So,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just like any tool, use it, but know what it's best used for.
I was thinking, what would be interesting is if we really became the hub for those that knowledge that you were speaking about. The it would be interesting if we were the source for how to be a good businessman. If we were the source on how to do good with your finances, how to run a good nonprofit, how to think philosophically, how to explore theology. It would be great if we were that source. I think the best thing we could do for ourselves right now is, as individuals, as we talk together, the best thing that we can do is take these thoughts to others within our lodges and try to cultivate those ideals. Because right now we're in a situation where we don't talk politics or religion. We don't talk business. We don't talk all the hard topics of the world, because that just creates fight, and we don't want to have anything but peace and harmony. And, so the thought has been, and that's been the culture for many years. It's nothing new. Yeah. It's been the culture for many years, and God bless them. I know they were just trying to keep the lodges together in a heavily shrinking situation, but here we are anyways. So at this point, let's take a real look at this and say, okay, well, maybe we ought to be able to discuss, if we use the tenets of Freemasonry, we should be able to talk about any subject and walk away brothers loving each other and feeling smarter and happy. Yeah. Because we were able to have that conversation, that open dialogue with someone else that challenges our intellect and helps us to become better. And, maybe that's what we should be focused on trying to cultivate, instead of worrying about the buildings and all the other stuff. Just keep focusing on trying to cultivate that within our lodge.
I think, Sorry,
Oh.
Go ahead, Daniel.
I was just going to jump in here real quick. I was listening to a really interesting interview yesterday, and they're talking about debate, right? Debate is a sport where you want to come out a clear winner,
Well, I
where
mean, that's
rhetoric
debatable.
is, well, yeah, that's debatable. But the use of rhetoric is be going in with something with an open enough mind to say, I'm still going to be your friend at the end of this, right? I'm still going to respect you and your opinion, and I might have to open my own mind to that and be willing to see someone else's different point of view as well. So, I think part of that is how do we treat people? Am I only here to win, or am I here to actually like gain knowledge?
Yeah.
So I'll leave it that.
Yes, and that's something I've said many times. I've challenged everyone out there. Change my mind. Please change my mind. It's not going to be easy, but change my mind because I'm willing to change it. You just have to give me a compelling enough reason to do so. And so if we take that approach, then I think that we'd be much better for it. I feel like I'm better for it today.
Yeah, I think based off the conversation and everything. I mean, if we're talking about like attraction and retaining and all that, and really providing value. What is value? Value to me is like, I pay X amount in dues. What does that provide? And I like the idea of the lodge being a hub, but not just an intellectual hub, like an activity hub. And I'm not talking about like the YMCA or something, right? And we've talked about this before, because you can't have a strong. If you want a strong mind, you have to have a strong body, right? And you gotta protect that temple. So I like the idea of having like intellectual conversations. I love that. I like the idea of having classes, and they could even be like public classes, but they're free to brothers or something like that, like financial, whatever, something like that. But I also think like when you pay your dues, you have a fob, and that gets you into the building 24/7, and there's a gym and whatever else that you could think of that provide value, that you don't have to have other people. You just know with your dues you have access to these things. And so there's always something to do. There's things to learn. I can just go work out or something if I want to. I can go
have a library in there.
Have a
real
yes,
library.
Yes. That's great. Have a library, like
research center, like with a computer set up for research or whatever, with a printer and a scanner. Yep. Things you can't leave with a book, but you can certainly scan whatever you want to and research. Yeah,
things like that. And it doesn't have to be just esoteric, because like we're talking about, it could be like how to make friends and influence people, things like that, things that are beneficial for me as a man, or just as a human being in general, to learn about how to do. And so you can have access to all this. This is what your membership gets you. This is why you should be a member of this lodge, because we provide value in these forms. And I think if we did that, I think a lot of the problems that a lot of lodges are seeing would go away. And it's
with
not
the diversity.
Like actually make good men better.
Yeah. And this isn't about buildings. I mean, you have to have a building for like some of these things, and obviously your building has to be larger. But if you just start off with what you can do with what you have, and it may be classes, and if you don't have anyone in your lodge that knows how to do like a finance class or something,
dude, there are plenty of people out there that can put them on, and there's a lot of financial advisors out there that will put them on for free, trying to get your business, and it's okay, because you get good knowledge anyways. You don't have to sign up with them. Yeah. But you get good knowledge anyways, and it builds relationships, and that's what they're trying to do. So you can get people to come in and do that. You can get people to help educate you on real estate. We're going through a turbulent time right now in real estate. My daughter's buying a house right now, and she's, saying, oh, no, we're not going to pay more than 6 point whatever percent. And it's like, well, golly, when I got my first house, it was like 8%, and I had damn good credit. It was, it's all relative to where we are as an economy, and it's going to go up and down. You can't stop your life just because of an interest rate today, because it's going to change, and you can refinance or whatever later on. just go on with your life and just figure it out.
Yeah.
But there's people that don't know about these. They've never seen.
And
Well,
it doesn't
her,
have to
for
be a member
instance,
of your lodge. It could be someone from the
she's
community just talking about something. Like
right.
what you're talking
Well,
about.
she's 27 years old, 28 years old. She's never seen that situation. There's never been anything different than 2 point whatever percent interest rate on houses. Never in her lifetime. So it's completely new to her. Whereas to somebody like me, it's like, come on, just roll with the punches, and we'll be just fine. Don't worry about it. Stay calm. We'll be okay. And we should have people willing to come in there are people willing to come in to give those talks, to talk to our young men and to help them understand, or even some older men who may have not have caught on the lesson in 2007.
Well, it doesn't have to be even men. I mean, it could be like about the community, or bring your families, or something
Right.
like that.
Well, you're right. And it would be an opportunity to serve the community by hosting something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then making it free to Masons, and looking for a $5 cover charge to pay for refreshments or whatever, or to pay the person coming in to help with their expenses, or depending on who it is, But yeah, absolutely. I think that those are very valid reasons, or valid things to bring to the table in a lodge.
I mean, if nothing else, estimate how much it costs to keep your doors open for like the amount of time. Like, find out what it costs to run electricity in your building for an hour, and then say, hey, you're gonna give a 2-hour talk. Well, we need to charge this much just to cover the cost, or something like that. And I mean, don't lose money on it, but
yeah, this is the cost of utilities. This is the cost of refreshment.
Mm-hmm.
But that would force lodges to actually pay attention to their utilities and all the other expenses that they pay for.
I know.
You're
It's
asking a
wild.
lot there.
It's crazy talk.
That's a big ask. Go ahead, Brett.
Have you guys have seen that Ancient Apocalypse show?
Yes,
yeah.
I love it.
So I've been on
A binge.
watching that a binge over this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And that dude Graham Hancock, he keeps saying this thing through the episodes, that he believes that we're people with amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
And we forget about, like, for instance, why did we join Masonry? As we get going along, like, we almost forget why we originally joined. And it's like what John was saying, or Gene. Is Gene or John? Gene?
Jean?
It's Giancarlo, John.
John.
Chunk.
Yeah. So what he was saying is, that we've got each other, and
Sounds a lot better
like-
when you say it.
I've
I'm just
probably known
saying.
Gene for like 3 years. He never corrected me once.
That's because he's polite. He's
Sorry.
a good man.
Sorry, Brad.
You
Please-
need to
please
be
continue.
better. Go ahead. Sorry, Brad.
But yeah, I mean, I just
childish
feel like
ways.
it's pretty awesome. That show's pretty good. Not to go off on a different topic, but all these little ancient civilizations that he keeps finding all have this same story of some strange visitor visiting them from a boat that teaches them these things and then kind of goes away.
Mhm.
They live off this idea. But I feel like we could kind of relate that to Masonry somehow, of, how Masonry started, from the teachings of the ancients to how we start today, and I feel like we should be teaching that kind of stuff in lodge, and
Yeah.
and getting back to the core fundamentals, and that's what will help us grow really tight knit. The fellowship and the community service is a good part too. It has to be well rounded,
Mhm.
but having the brotherhood is good.
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
That's
yeah,
fun.
and that's kind of what I envision when you think about like a mystery school or something like that. Like as a neophyte, you can go, and there's a library. There's resources available to you. They don't just open the doors once a month to have a business meeting, a ceremonial business meeting, right? There's actual value to be had there, and
You need
I think
to
we need
you
to.
need to define neophyte because not everybody will know what that is.
Oh, neophyte. That's someone that's like relatively new to something. They're kind of like
Well,
almost
they're
like an
seeking.
apprentice. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
seekers. Yeah,
they're trying to learn. They're wanting to learn.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
They're the spiritual seekers out there.
but they also yeah, but they also had. There's no evidence of it, but like these are people that also gave back to their communities. These are organizations that contributed, and so I don't see. I could see like having events where people would come to learn things, and it's not like secret knowledge or anything like that, but it's still something where people could benefit from.
Well, you say, their community and what have you, and I've seen the show Ancient Apocalypse as well, and you're right. There's a lot of common themes where they say that, back in the day somebody came in on a boat. I tend to believe that, the ancient Egyptians were freaking smart enough that they probably sent people out to meet with these other worlds and try to explore the world way before Columbus, right? Surely, surely, don't call me Shirley. Surely the Gen Xers will get that one. But surely somebody out there had a boat and they decided to go a little bit further than just within their bay. They went halfway around the world. It seemed like, to try to conquer new countries in the same size boats. It seems like somebody like Egypt would have probably sent people out
Well, we have
to.
evidence. Even China and Japan, they went to like the West Coast, and
Yes.
we know the
Now there
Vikings
is
traveled.
evidence of that. Yes.
We know the Vikings traveled to the East Coast.
Daniel got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as we're kind of talking about ancient apocalypse and stuff like that, I was listening to a podcast today as I was traveling to go carry that giant fish tank, and it's about ancient ruins and things like that. But they kind of were off track today, and I haven't listened to the whole thing yet. But I learned something interesting. Remote. So we've all probably heard of remote viewing. Like, I think we talked about it on here before, where certain people, like certain techniques, they can see things far away and distant, and like this is a technique used by the military. Like it's actually used. Like they can pinpoint with relative precision. The example given in the show was like when satellites are going to like re-enter. There are some people that can give you like within how many days, like a certain time frame, and like a 50-mile radius of where it's probably going to land, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's pretty precise considering how big the Earth is and the time scales involved.
That's
Anyway,
pretty precise, just considering it's coming from somebody's brain, and
Yeah.
and they're just prophesying this event.
But what I didn't know was that, no, I'm not saying that this didn't exist before. Like, there's probably some practice before, but the modern remote viewing originated from Scientology, and I didn't realize that. And so it originated within the Scientology community, and then they went and trained members of the military on how to do that. I didn't know that, so that was really interesting to me.
Yeah,
Back in the
CIA,
go
the
ahead.
CIA released the papers. It calls, I believe, it the Gateway project.
Okay.
You can search about it and
Yes.
stuff like that. So, but to be honest, that's something that is, like you say, that's nothing new. Like, and that's what we need to embrace and and feel proud about. Be, I will say, be amazing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're supposed to be the gatekeepers of knowledge for society, and 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 all that is even in the Bible. Like, I remember what passage in the Bible that the prophet is talking about another prophet, like how he see what he was doing in his mind,
Mm-hmm.
and it's right there. We just read it and we don't understand it, so it's nothing new. And I believe like we need to get more involved in these topics and embrace as a Mason that we are actually the gatekeepers of knowledge for society and future generation to pass on uh, that light, that fire. I don't know how you want to name it, but yeah.
Is it
Light or fire is good with me.
is it is it
I like
is it
both of them.
hermetic, or am I thinking somewhere else to saying there's nothing new under the sun? Right? Is that a hermetic principle?
It was Salomon, yeah.
Solomon? Okay. All right. Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun. And so like you're saying, and like Brad was saying, I mean, or was it Brad? A species with amnesia. Like just yeah, I mean it's not new. Remote viewing isn't new. It's just rediscovered and called something different. And that's not to
Yeah.
say there aren't, and I say rediscovered, there's probably cultures and practitioners out there that are doing something similar already. It's just called something different, and it just hasn't been popularized as much as remote viewing has been in the West. I say popularized because it's such a big topic, but you know what I mean. But there are some really interesting.
Well, if George Clooney made a movie about it,
Oh yeah,
then it's popular.
What is it,
It's popularized.
Men who scream at
Men
goats.
who stare at goats.
Stare at goats.
Yeah.
But there's some interesting papers that have come out. There was a remote viewer that looked at Mars like 100 million years ago, like a civilization in Mars supposedly, and then the Adam and Eve story. I think is what it's called. We talked about it before, Dennis, where like periodic like catastrophes.
Right.
And so I mean, it's spooky to think about, but it's interesting.
Well, yeah, periodic catastrophes. We're coming up on a on a change right now, fixing to go into the age of Aquarius.
There we
And
go.
that's that kind of that's nerve-wracking thinking that, what could happen. You never know.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was thinking about when y'all were talking, oh shoot, I just lost it. Never mind, go ahead. I'll pass. I'll be back. I started thinking about Aquarius, and here I am. I get off topic.
Well, I mean, it is dawning, so yeah, I understand.
Oh my goodness! Don't. It's too
The
early to
water
start
bearer.
that. It's
The water bear, yes. And so it's interesting to me and we talked about this before. You have like the age of Pisces, where that was Jesus, and the age of Taurus, which was Baal basically, and then the age of Leo, which was the associated with like the Sphinx, like the ancient Sphinx with like the face on the Sphinx and everything. So it's interesting to me to see what Aquarius, what that will bear, like moving forward, several thousand years from now, or however long the age actually takes. Will people be able to look back and say, that's what this age represented? Did you remember yet, Dennis? It's
No.
very rare for you to lose your train of thought.
I know.
You must be tired. Are you tired tonight?
I am very
I
tired.
could tell. I am too.
I went and mowed all my properties today, and while I sit and zone and I think about these thoughts all throughout the day while I'm mowing, I just sit there and mow and zone,
He
and
just
and
needs a scotch in his hand. That's it.
Yeah, he probably mows with a scotch in his hand.
That's right. Well, I was sitting here. While we were talking a minute ago, I'm sitting here looking at this rye, thinking, "Man, do I want to open this rye tonight? Is
Is that
tonight the night?"
Which one is that?
This is the one made by the brother that's part of the Widow's Sons, and he made it for me over in New Mexico. And but
Sunday
I was
night,
thinking,
Dennis.
I know it's the perfect time.
Oh, okay. 10 o'clock on Sunday night. Well, let's just crack this open. A little sippy sip.
I was thinking I could have cracked it open at 10 o'clock this morning. Like John said, that's
All your properties would have been like the way
right,
lines of
right. You would have seen big zigzags around the trees instead of getting real close to them.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what was I gonna say? It was kind of thoughtful. Oh shoot, just keep going.
Got you.
Now I'm way off. It'll come
Start
back.
talking about remote viewing, and your talk went far away.
Yeah, his mind went remote.
Yeah, it did. Probably
We're
it
doing
was.
remote viewing right now.
There you go.
Yes. Yes. Well,
But
ultimately, that's what you know. Most religions, that's really what you're doing is you're tapping into remote viewing when you're sitting and meditating,
mhm,
and you're going inward. So with 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 most um, realms of faith, they talk about um, finding quiet time,
mhm,
time for reflection, time for you to sit and be at peace with yourself and with God. And in doing that, you center yourself, and then in that moment, that's when some of um, the fresh ideas or new understanding comes about, right?
mhm.
Well, ultimately, that is, in a way, um, remote viewing, because in a way you're manifesting what you see to be the future for yourself. And I truly believe in manifesting destiny.
Mhm.
Um, you find you find something that you love. You think that it's just because you love it, right? But really, you find something that you love, you get excited about it, that energy level skyrockets. It just hits, and you're hitting on all cylinders, and you're excited about it, and you manifest that next level of success because you're so excited about it. You can be in any job, any mundane job in the world, and if you can center yourself and create excitement within yourself about that job, you can take yourself to the next level and manifest success within that job, even if it wasn't your favorite job in the world. So you find something that you enjoy and you really capitalize on that, and then you really start seeing manifested destiny.
Mhm.
I, my wife and I were talking about it this morning, as a matter of fact, talking about remote viewing. We were talking about it this morning about what we're going to talk about tonight.
Interesting. It's weird how it
And
ties it in like that.
so we were talking about it, and I said, in reality, we're still living on a manifested destiny that we created when we first moved to Goliad, and we started buying up all these properties, and we got excited about it. We started, I started investing a lot of time and energy into rehabbing all these properties, and we were going to just flip them, and then we ended up keeping them all and renting them all out, and we're still living off that residual of manifested destiny.
Mhm.
It's and it started with a vision, and then we got excited about it, and then the energy increased, and the success increased. And I think that anybody can do that with anything that they want. They just have to decide that they want to be better and do better.
From a physics perspective,
Oh no,
there's
don't be
no
bringing no smarts into it now.
well, there's no real time or space. Like everything that can happen is happening right now. Like there's no future, there's no past. Like every instance of every possibility is happening simultaneously. And space wise, there's really like what we perceive as space isn't real. It's all relative. Also, it's all in one spot. And so my point is, if everything that can happen is happening instantaneously already, there's not really any, like we are traveling linearly through time and experiencing space, but there, from a physics perspective, time isn't linear, and so in every possibility, everything that could happen happens, and so when you are manifesting, what manifestation means is like what you want out of life is already happening. You just have to tell the universe that's what you want to experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you're feeling a certain way, it's because you've already created it.
Yeah.
You've already created that reason for you feeling that way. So you've already manifested that destiny of, for me, life sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Got a blowout in my car. Can't deal with it today. You've already created that.
Yeah.
It all happen by a series of events that you had already started a long time ago.
And that's why successful people are weird, because they so zealously protect what goes in here, right? Like they don't surround themselves with negative people. They don't listen to negative things. They have
Well,
a
and typically they hyper focus on what's important to them.
yes,
That
yes,
the
yes,
target, not
yes.
anything else. All this other stuff is background noise and it gets in the way.
But also to tie that back to Masonry, that's why lodges cannot be negative places. If you want to, if you want your members to be successful, if you want your membership to grow and thrive and to prosper and to be successful in all of their endeavors, and you want them to come to lodge, the lodge has to be a place of positivity and growth. It cannot be a place of negativity, because they're going to catch. And it sounds, I know this sounds like hippie stuff, but really maybe we just need to start embracing that more. They don't want to come. They can't come to the lodge and catch these negative vibes, right? Because it's going to affect their family life. It's going to affect their business. It's going to affect every
Well,
aspect of their life.
you're right, because Masonry is so important in our lives.
Yeah.
And we were talking about why past masters don't show back up at lodge. Why some of them become vacant after they get out of the East. And everybody says, "Oh, he just wanted a title or what have you." And that's just not true. A lot of times it's because as they're a master, they see all the BS in the lodge. They get all the negativity from the lodge through all building up to becoming a master. It was all positive. Everything was positive and exciting getting to be a master, and then you become a master and you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. And then you get all the negative of the lodge. And then after that, you can't unsee what you've already seen, right?
It makes them negative.
And
And then when
so
the
and
year's
so
over,
then
yeah.
you just walk away. You say, I can't have that in my life.
Mhm.
And you walk away and you go, I'm a good example of that. And I hate to say that I'm an absentee past master, but I am in my current lodge because the negativity pushed me away, not right after my year. As a matter of fact, I was still going after my year. And then it was after that I just started fading away because the negativity just continued, and the political crap just bothered me so bad that now I'm a secretary of another lodge.
Mhm.
And I refuse to allow negativity to run my lodge. And it's not going to run me. And so I'm not going to allow it to run the lodge. And we stay pretty positive, pretty sharp. We're doing really well. And not that it's me that does it. The whole officer lineup is great, and everybody's moving in the same direction.
Mhm.
But that's what happens when you have brothers that want to embrace positive uh, um, positive change instead of embracing uh, negative stagnation.
Yeah. I found
I
it.
can't agree more with that, and I will say that will go like brother, like the brother was saying, like he said before, like a hippie type or tough. Maybe I'm gonna sound like hippie now too, or Harry Potter kind of commentary, but
Yes, now you got
that's
my
that's what
attention.
that's what it's supposed to be when we are opening a lodge. Like that's the reason to open a lodge.
Yeah.
Like if we are doing like we're supposed to do
That's why we
correctly
have
opening a
ritual.
lodge,
Yeah.
we are opening
Yes,
a space for having a conversation. Like it's a opening a time into a time, like another environment where the
yes.
negativity and the noise of the outside can't penetrate. That's how we supposed to do it. But most of the time we have it for granted. We just
It's
doing an
supposed to
opening
be a
just like,
sacred
"Eh,
place. Yeah.
yeah, and that's it. But if we as a master mason with that intention and positive energy, putting that into the right place, that's how it's supposed to happen.
I was amused by my own hypocrisy, by the way. Talking about what I said, the whole hippie thing, because I was talking about negative vibes, and then I look over here on my desk, and I mean, we spent a whole book club talking about vibration and how important it was. And so I was like, man, I
Yes.
need to reread that chapter.
Yes, you
I
do.
think it's just something like when I'm in a book club state of mind, and I'm probably not the only one. I'm in a book club state of mind. I'm more open to having certain conversations about things. But the thing is, it's just like when you go to lodge or say like you're going to church, you shouldn't just be open to certain things. Like as a Christian, if I go to church, I shouldn't be open to only talking about Christian things when I'm at church, if that makes sense. And so if I'm going to have a book club and talk about like vibration and things, I need to make myself more comfortable talking about the same thing outside a book club. Otherwise, I'm not really embracing the things I talk about.
And the thought comes right back. Okay, so what I was thinking earlier
Oh, I
when
was
we
like, what are you talking about? I forgot. Please go before you forget again.
so what I was thinking about earlier when we were talking about people who don't want to change, they don't want to embrace change. Do they even know who Solomon was? How many Masons have not even studied who Solomon was and all the different religions he researched, all the different wives he had from the different nations? I mean, obviously the man was well traveled and the man was well read and had this great understanding. That's where his wisdom comes from. And here we are stuck in our own little hometown, in our own little church, in our own little, you know, backyard conversations during a fish fry, and we don't go any further than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that could be a lot of the reason why we aren't growing as a Masonic society, because we're staying stuck in our lodge and not going any further with that, not expanding ourselves. Now, I just wanted to throw that in there because,
Well, some of them are expanding themselves.
right, there's a lot of people.
I'm talking about too many spaghetti dinners, but
I'm expanding myself, unfortunately, in the width-wise.
So I'm trying to retract right now. I'm trying to. I'm doing better these days. I'm looking better for my wife so that she might, find me attractive for the next 50 years. But, the reality is that the main character that we are supposed to be gaining all of our wisdom from is so diverse and so open to any and all possibilities. How could we ever deny any of those thoughts or any of those subjects from coming into our lodge on anything? Because he was so well versed in everything. How could we deny having any of that come into our lodge to help our brothers and help our communities? Like you said, that's, we can do a lot more than what we're doing. I hope this show is able to get, help people with ideas, this time. There's been some great ideas tonight. And I hope that somebody that's watching somewhere gets a good idea.
Who are we to think we're wiser than King Solomon, right?
I would say too, like the
it's all about tradition.
It's all about, but it's also like, really, if we go back further, right, Dennis? Like the tradition was to talk about these things so much. It was to have these open discussions. It was to open and close lodge and then continue the discussion after lodge.
Yes.
And maybe it wasn't in the lodge itself they had a discussion about religion or politics, but after lodge you should be having that discussion. Before lodge you should be having that discussion. Mm-hmm. And you should be, as a man who is a Mason, you should have enough control and enough understanding that I'm not going to get heated and I'm not going to have my ego be bruised because somebody has a different opinion than me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go in there and say like, oh, you're right, you're wrong, I'm right, whatever that is. You're going to be able to be open-minded and go, oh, I can see that point of view a little bit and I can understand that a little bit. So
yeah,
I always think back to like the Enlightenment, right? And they have the lodges, and you have these, like you have Voltaire and Newton and these guys, and they're in lodge, and they open the lodge, and hey, here's my latest theory. here's evidence of why I think this is the way things work, and then close the lodge, and then you go to dinner and you have your discussion. Not everyone standing up and holding everybody hostage for 20-30 minutes. Here's my presentation. Let's go break for dinner, and that's where the discussion happens. And I mean, knowledge imparted, knowledge discussed and dissected. And then these are the same people. They would take it back to their laboratories, their personal laboratories, or their own universities, and they would replicate it and say, "Oh, this is replicatable. This he's onto something," or like Newton would gain more insight and take it back and adapt and evolve his theories and things like that. Conversations were taking place, and there's no reason that just as equally deep conversations, they don't have to be, but just as equally deep conversations can't take place today at a lodge.
Right. Well, and that's why I say it doesn't, and it also doesn't have to be on just esoteric type knowledge. It can be on everyday stuff like finances and business, and just how to be a better person. Hell, you can bring in somebody on horticulture, and I'm going to be interested. We're trying to grow some plants here. I'm trying to grow a bell pepper because they're hard to kill, right? I mean, they may be a little bit shriveled, but they'll still eat. But that's my experience. So bring somebody in that teaches me how to do that, and I'm going to be happy. And sure, it's not a Home Depot, right? But maybe I'm the guy that starts the next CBD farm. Who knows? I mean, for real. I mean, that's where things generate. That's where sparks happen, and somebody gets an idea to where they can take it further in a different direction than what it was originally intended. Just like Voltaire and them talking about different theories, somebody can be in a completely different field listening to those theories, but because they're so involved and they're so interested in what's being discussed, a spark hits, and they can take it to their own laboratory for something else completely different, because it sparked a thought on, did I try this experiment? Did I try this different approach on gaining knowledge on this subject? Maybe I should have done this instead of just focusing on this one rabbit trail that I was going down, and which could spur the next big thing. Yep. I think that's exactly what they were doing in the Enlightenment period.
Yeah. And probably before that.
Oh yeah. There was always somebody that was searching.
I mean, even if you think we came from operative Masons, I mean, that's what they would do. They'd open lodge. Hey, this is how you do this. And then they would break and discuss. I mean, that's how they learn from each other.
You can see it in the architecture, how it changed, and the materials they used, and the design, and all that. Mm-hmm. That's why we have the pillars in our degree that we have. That's why it shows that, because it shows a period of understanding, growth in understanding.
Well, that's how the field evolved. Like, if you just have a master and apprentice, and they figure out a new way of doing things, and maybe they tell their friends or something. But unless like, hey, let's formally, like, let me show you guys how we do this, and then like maybe travel around a little bit and show other people. That's why you see, like what you're saying, all across the board, all across like England, for example, you see these shifts that happen at once, and it's not because one guy figured something out and didn't tell anybody. They shared, they talked about it, they learned from one another. Absolutely.
For sure.
I gonna maybe change gear here really quick.
Go ahead.
But you say something that sparked me. You say there's there's always somebody searching. So picking that, what are we doing as a lodge to preserve our history for our next generation? And I'm gonna give you this I don't know if it's like a idea or what, but I started on my lodge. Maybe it's something that people can implement in their lodge. So when I went last year to the 101, uh, I figured out that we have a Texas loss of research or research of
Yes,
loss.
Texas Lodge Research. Yes.
Right. So that's something that was very interesting for me because that's beside mysticism and other
It's
topics from
totally
Masonry.
different, isn't it? It's a lot different for you, isn't it? It's a
Right.
lot different for me too. I'm still writing my paper because it's a lot different. It's hard for me to do.
Exactly.
It's
So history is something that I like about Masonry. That's another branch of Masonry that I also enjoy. But when I start doing my research about my lodge history, I figure out that we have a historical committee that
A what?
it
A
wasn't
historical what?
historical committee
Oh,
committee
yeah.
yeah, about history. So our brothers, our founder brothers, they make a whole book with the whole history. Like a very good, I'm telling you, like a very good job with pictures, everything. But we stopped doing it at one point. So now I'm the chairman of that committee because I came with
oh nice.
yeah,
Congratulations,
yeah.
man.
Since I came with the idea, they put me, oh, so you're gonna do it. So I
Yes.
came up with this book. I named it the Silver Cord Book
Oh nice.
I like
because
that.
it's talking about Solomon in Ecclesiastes. He's
Sorry, guys.
talking about how the silver cord, when it break, it's basically talking about that, right? So I believe if we stop putting our history, it's not, it doesn't have to be open to the public, but at least for our lodge, beside the information we have in the minutes, because even sometimes when they read the minutes, it's so little information. Like, yeah, this brother say that, but who was that brother, you know? And what's gonna happen when 50, 100 years from now, that person that you were talking, there's always somebody searching, is gonna be searching how you're lost going through COVID, let's say as an example, in the 2020, and they only 5 minutes, that doesn't give you too much information, you know. So I came with that idea that doing the silver cord and putting extra information that, let's say we have a I don't know, we went to the community and did this work, putting that down, how many brothers went, if you have picture, whatever the case it is. And at the end of the fiscal year, you put it together and give it to the secretary so he can put it together with the minutes of that year. So that's something that,
Nice.
I love that, man.
yeah, I just
That's
want to throw
Very
awesome.
it in
cool.
because, yeah,
Very cool. Yeah, because we're at a point now to where we have this capability that we've never had before. And like I just purchased another I, I'm I'm just a goofball on this stuff. I just purchased another dictation tool
device.
that yeah, device that Justin, stop it. Stop being a child. And so this one will actually use AI and completely write whatever I'm discussing.
Oh,
It,
now
it
you're cool with
completely,
AI.
as long as it's saying exactly what I'm saying, if it's typing exactly what I'm saying in the format that I want it, yes, I'm very cool with it.
Got you.
But
As long as he gets an AI dentist, he's happy with it.
Oh,
Trust
yeah.
me.
that's right. But you know, with tools like that, and then with OCR, with OCR software, you can scan different stuff with like minutes and things like that, and it'll pick it up and put it into print. If you have a good program, a decent program, it'll do that. And you know, it's so available today that it's almost crazy for us not to pick up where brothers have given up, because back then they had a typewriter and they were doing it, and here we are with all the technology of today and we're not doing it. What the hell is wrong with us?
Exactly. That's my point. Thank you.
That's a good point. Well, it's almost 10:30. How about we do final thoughts? It's been a very productive conversation tonight.
It has been. It's been a good Sunday.
Considering how tired Dennis is. Who wants to go first with final thoughts? Anybody? Brad? John? Not
I'm
Jim?
last.
I'll
I
jump
think
in.
I have been talking too much today, so I'm good. That was my final thought.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for coming on, man. Was it John or Daniel about to say something?
I'll jump in and say something unless John was going to say something. All right. I was just going to say, I think we're at a moment in time, and I know this has been said before, but we really had to critically think: what are we putting out there? What are we going to get out of it? Right? We talked about manifesting destiny. We talked about thinking about a place of positivity. All of this, right? Like younger men who are coming to the craft. What are they looking for? All of this comes together and ultimately says, is it a place that somebody wants to come to? Right? Dennis, you mentioned the guy who was saying, hey, we're doing these fun things for the lodge. It's invigorating that lodge. That's wonderful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe and hopefully that leads to something more and something deeper than just a place to go and have fun, because we can go have fun with at church or at the bar or down at the playground or wherever we go, right? There has to be something more. There has to be something deeper and something more engaging that hooks people in and really makes them want to come. And that's, again, we hear that trite old phrase, masonry makes good men better. Well, what are we doing to actually make them better? What are those steps we're taking to make them better, to help educate them? And, maybe it is making them a Masonic center and making it the place to be, where we are a place of education, a place of knowledge, a reservoir of knowledge. And whether that's our own members or people we're inviting to speak, and have that opportunity to say, hey, we're having this lecture tonight. We're having it on the history of our town. We're having it on the history, or this person from your local garden club, whatever that is. Make it a place to be, and then people are going to come and be attracted to that because of the knowledge that you're sharing and the knowledge you're giving out. And they're going to say, what makes this different? Why do I want to come here? And they will figure it out, and they will be there.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for your thoughts, man. That's good. Brad, you got anything?
Obviously, Daniel was listening, and Brad was not. And he was.
Wow.
No, I was listening. You guys were doing good. I shared what I had to share earlier. It's just
Don't let him razz you, Brad.
gotta remember what we originally joined for. Like I asked John in the group, because he's an EA, and I'll speak for him because I don't think he can talk because he
Oh,
doesn't
that's
have a
right.
mic
Yeah.
or whatever. But basically, he's an EA, and he just turned in his first section this week
Cool.
of his
Congratulations.
EA. So he'll be doing the second and third section in his proficiency. And I asked him in the chat, why did you join? And he said to be part of a brotherhood. And I think we all kind of joined for something similar to that. But we got so much more than what we bargained for.
Mm-hmm.
So much more came out of it than what we originally thought was going to get. At least that's true for me. So, you guys had a good conversation. I enjoyed it tonight.
Appreciate you being here, bro. As always. I guess it's my turn, huh? For those, I'm sure everybody's heard of Montgomery Ward, right? The old company. It was a magazine. I think they had stores at some point, but it was a magazine. You could order like older magazines, right? You could.
In the 1800s, it was a magazine, and then it went
Yeah.
to a store just like J.C. Penney's and
Mhm.
Sears. Sears Roebuck, they started out as a magazine that they ordered from to go to the local store, and then they would distribute it from there. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then they become big companies, and now they're becoming online whatever now.
Yeah. Well, Montgomery Ward's not even around anymore. I don't think.
No, they just went
Um,
under in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time where you could buy houses off of them. Like they could get anything from there. And
Yeah,
my point
they had
is
Sears houses. Yeah.
my point is Montgomery Ward's not around anymore because it refused to evolve. It didn't adapt with the times. They did a little bit. They had their storefronts, and they got away. They still did magazines, but they shifted kind of away from that. But then they never really embraced the internet quite like they should, or they just refused to change. And there's lots of businesses like that were looking like Kodak, right? It didn't change with the times. It didn't embrace the trends. And so you're never too big to fail. Kodak was huge. 80s. I mean, it was the place to get. I mean, it was the film, right? The cameras. Were there cameras ever? Or was it just film?
Yeah.
I mean, it was it.
And Radio Shack.
The Radio Shack, yeah. And so my point is that we can keep giving these examples, but my point is these are places, that were once huge, but they didn't change with the times. They didn't evolve. And in really a relatively short amount of time, before you know it, you can't find a Radio Shack anymore. You can't find a Blockbuster anymore, right? Because they didn't adapt. And well, I'm not talking about innovations. I'm not talking about anything crazy. I'm talking about just looking at societal trends and shifting with that. And we have to do that. And we talked before about numbers reducing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But there's a difference between draining the excess water out of your boat and just having a hole in your boat, if that makes sense, right? You want it to drain, but you don't want it just to be so excessive that now you're underwater, if that makes sense. It's kind of the opposite, but you see what I'm saying. The membership's going to decrease, but the difference between like decreasing to a healthy, stable amount and just hemorrhaging away and not having a building at all or a lodge at all really depends on how well you can adapt with the time at your lodge and in your district, in your area. And that's what we have to focus on. Like what are people looking at when they join? And you hear like brotherhood, I want to become a better man, I want to be a part of something, but none of these things are I want to go show up once a month and have a spaghetti dinner and do a business meeting, a ceremonial business meeting, right? These are things you have to do. It's an organization. You have to have business meetings. I'm not saying you can't do that, but you have to offer more than that. And we talk a lot about, raising degree fees, raising dues and things like that. And we need to do that, but we have to ask, what are you getting for that? What are you getting for that? And you can say, well, you get to be a Mason. I don't think that carries the weight that we think it does. I think it should, but when there's no offer, there's no value. Well, because there's value associated with it, and now there's not as much value associated with it. We have to adapt. The things that used to provide value, we can't do anymore. We don't do anymore, right? And some of the things that provided value are probably kind of sketchy. Just because you're a Mason doesn't mean you should get like certain perks and stuff, right? Now you could say, well, it's kind of a gray area. If I know somebody, that's fine, but just some dude shows up with a ring doesn't necessarily mean he gets preferential treatment either. We have to say, what can we do that actually provides value? Yeah, guys want to have a place where they can hang out with other men, or they can like have their families involved in a safe place. But like what we talked about, find a way to incorporate a library, if nothing else. Gym, that's a pipe dream. You have to have like, don't do a gym right now, but there's some lodges that could. But work on creating a library. Work on creating that value. I don't see why we couldn't do a fob system. A gym, it works fine at gyms. You paid up for the month, your fob gets you in. If you haven't paid up, you don't come in. And that's just part of the benefit of being a member. You come in, you can do the gym. You can, if there's like we've talked before about other things. I'm just brain farting tonight. But there are things you can do in your lodge that provide value that don't necessarily have to have like oversight. You just people can go in and do it. We have to start looking at things like that. And I think I know we kind of wanted to get away from like talking about buildings and stuff, but you have to meet somewhere. And I think if you compiled your resources and we swallowed our ego and swallowed our pride and said, look, we can do great things, but we have to stop thinking my town, my lodge, my town, my lodge, or in larger towns we just can't think, well, this is my side of town, this is our lodge, and things like that. We are Masons. It's our fraternity. We need to stop thinking. We need to stop thinking lodge and geographically, we need to start thinking fraternally. What can we do to provide Freemasonry to this area, to provide value to the Masons in this area together? Because it's like the old divide and conquer analogy. Like separate, we are weak, and you see it already. Like lodges here, lodge there, just kind of dying like little stars, right? That's going out. Boop, 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 boop. But if we came together and united and said, look, this is the Masonic Center, this is where we're going to meet, those embers are going to burn brighter. And they still may end up merging to an extent and things like that. But if you met and you said, look, this is what we're going to offer here at this lodge, this is what this lodge offers, this is our building, we're going to come together, we're going to make it a nice place, we could do so much more. And so we've said it before, Dennis, ego is the enemy. That is the devil, is ego. When ego takes over as an individual, it kills you, it crushes you, right? It destroys your spirit, it robs you of your happiness, and it does the same thing to lodges. Because when we let ego take over, it kills us as a fraternity, because we are not reaching our full potential. Anyway, all that said, as always, I appreciate all of you. I really do. I appreciate the conversations we have. This is good. We don't usually know what we're going to talk about, but it's always a good conversation. So I appreciate all of you, all you guys, and the rest of the Inner Circle members that hop on. And really, I appreciate all the Inner Circle members, because you all, I mean, you keep our Zoom going, you keep everything rolling for us. But couldn't do it without you, I don't think. Like we went a ways where it was just me, and then Dennis jumped on, and we kept rolling. And as we grew, this is just a natural progression, and we couldn't have progressed to what we are without y'all. And so I appreciate each and every one of you and everyone that's watching, and I hope everyone has a great week.
Nice. All right. So I think that those are all great things to think about. And what I'd like to stress on is think about. We were talking about manifesting destiny and manifesting the moment in time right now, because there is no before, there is no after, whatever, or what have you. I don't want to say whatever. But what my thought is just as we should be stopping to reflect within ourselves, to recenter and understand where our focus should be, so that we can be more successful in life and in love, in leadership, in friendship, in fraternity, all those things. We should reflect within ourselves. The lodges should be doing the same thing. And I don't think that we do it enough. I think we have these little tidbits that we try to within the business meeting. But just like John was talking about earlier, when we open a lodge, we open with ritual for a reason. We are opening for a reason to take ourselves to a different place. And it is completely mental and spiritual, and it is inside the mind of God, to where we can better understand our path. That's what we're doing. That's why we have ritual. We put ourselves in, we take ourselves out with ritual. We're doing ourselves a disservice by just calling it a business meeting, because the only reason we have business meetings is because you have to, as a 501c10, which is what we are attached to, the C3 of Grand Lodge, we have to do that to be considered a charitable business. You have to have those meetings, those monthly meetings. You have to have a certain amount of charitable gifts given to the community and to the But that doesn't have to be financially. It can be with time also. We have these little timesheets that we can fill out at the lodge to prove our time that we donate to the community or what have you, to whatever charity that we choose. So we're too focused on the business portion, the churn, the constant, keeping the building open, keeping the juices flowing, keeping all that going. We're always focused on that instead of stepping back and reflecting and figuring out what our purpose truly is or should be. Now, that can change over time. Our purpose today is probably a little bit different than it was yesterday. The brothers of yesteryear, they're absolutely right when they say, this isn't the Freemasonry I joined. They're right. And in all reality, even today, it's not the Freemasonry I joined, because like Brad said earlier, we forget where we came from and why we joined. My reasons for being here today are completely different from my reasons of when I joined. Now, does that mean that I've joined for the wrong reasons? Absolutely not. I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't have been for the superficial reasons I joined back then. And they weren't really that superficial, but they were. It was because my grandfather was pretty cool and thought of real well with the community, and great grandfather and whatnot. I wanted to be cool like that. I didn't know how to be. I didn't feel like I was, so I wanted to be, and thought that if I was a master mason, then I would be. Little did I know that the rest of the world didn't see me the same way as I saw master masons, right? Little did I know. But we did it to ourselves. We were in a certain path at that time. That was kind of the journey that we were on. Now we have an opportunity, if we're wise, like Solomon, we have an opportunity to learn from those things and move forward on a different trajectory in that journey. We're still on the same journey, on the same path that we were always meant to be on. But it's just a different trajectory on that path, different degree on the same thing. And hopefully a higher degree, to where vibrations are high, energy is high, everybody gets excited, and then we start flourishing. And that doesn't necessarily mean membership. Maybe that means we just have the members that we've had all along start coming back because they hear that things are going good in our lodges. If we just had the members show up that are actual members of our lodges, we wouldn't know what to do. We'd have standing room only in almost every lodge in Texas. If we just had our members show up. We don't have a membership problem. We have a value problem, a value proposition problem. And that problem is because of right here. Because we don't take time to reflect and align our mental with our spiritual, so that we can focus our energy on the path that's in front of us. Brothers, I gained that thought, that wisdom from you guys tonight. Everything I just said came from y'all. And if it wasn't for brothers like yourself, then I wouldn't be the man I am today. Except for Justin. There's always that one that you wish would just drop off. But you can't, because he started it, right? He started all this crap. And so I have to leave him here. I can't just, we've got too many. Did you see we've got like 1.6 million overall views over time for Masonic Improvement? That's
quite
pretty cool.
Bit. Yeah. We're over 16,000 subscribers now too.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool stuff. You wouldn't have been there without me. I know that. But I certainly can't kick you to the side now because, then it would just destroy everything that we've built. I'm just kidding.
I appreciate that I would be inconvenient to you.
But the reality is, brothers, is that, we have our mentors, and I've had a few really choice mentors. I still have a few really choice mentors in my journey. I really do. But I feel like all of our inner circle members are those mentors as well. Y'all are my mentors as well, because I learn something from you every time you come on the show with us. Every time you join us, I feel like I'm learning and growing because of the input you contribute to the show. And I certainly hope that all the viewers out there and listeners on the different podcast channels out there, I hope that all of you are gaining the same type of insight and feel the same kind of I'm going to kick myself for saying this. Feel the same kind of depth as I do. I work with a bunch of children.
How deep, Dennis?
But I truly do hope that you guys have the same kind of takeaway that I do from this. I can laugh, I have fun with you brothers, but I also learn, and it gets serious, and it impacts my life. I've been through some really good times and some really hard times throughout this whole journey, but y'all wouldn't even really know that because y'all are the positive point of my week every week. And if it wasn't for the growth that I've had from all of the conversations that we've had, then I might not have made it through that valley quite so easily, quite so unscathed, you know? So hopefully you guys are gaining the same thing. And I love you guys. Thank you. Keep it between the points.
Between the points.